Hello, everybody. My name is Gary Fowler, and it's great to be here one more time. I am the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Silicon Valley. Been working in tech for over 37 years. Love artificial intelligence and quantum computing, and love bringing the most amazing people in the world onto my show. And with that, I'd like to introduce an incredible person, friend, advocate, guru, um, masters of theology. I mean, it's just everything. Sports, you name it. Lamell's done it. You know, he's inspiration for us all. He's captured my heart and soul. I mean, he's been in 20 years, over 20 years from West Lawn, uh, Illinois to where he is today in Florida and in Washington and making a little dent in the universe, actually a big dent in the universe. So with that, I'd like to bring my friend Lamell McMorris on board. Hi, Lamell.
Hey, sir, how are you?
Great. It's so great to have you here today. I really appreciate it.
It's good to be here. When you, sorry, I think Siri, I thought I was talking to her. When you said guru, I looked around like, who is he talking to? He can't
Yeah,
talking about
yeah,
me.
I gotta tell you, Lamell, seriously, I've never seen anybody in my life, and I'm just, telling you directly, speaking from the soul, that's as multi-talented as you, from going to Princeton University to getting your doctorate in law and policy. I mean, it's incredible. How in the world, in your life, so growing up, when did you say, I'm going to make this dent in the universe and really go out, not just talk about it, but do it? How did you go from West Lawn, right? You were born in,
Yeah.
how did
So
you do that?
yeah, born and raised on the south side of Chicago at 66 in Cottage Grove, where my childhood home still is still there, in a neighborhood called Woodlawn, and I refer to it as the west part of Woodlawn. You know what? There's an old gospel song in the church, in the black church, especially in the Christian faith, and the lyrics go a little bit. There's something within me I can't explain. All I know is I thank God for whatever that something is within me. I really, Gary, the only thing I can tell you is everything I am and everything I'm doing, it's not a straight line, but there's a line from my childhood. I was always the kid watching current events. I could tell you who the mayor was, who the governor was, who my city council person was, who the state representative was, who the president was, who the vice president. I knew everything going on in the news. I was always the kid at the youngest, at the table, making policy decisions and engaged in activation and advocacy. And so that is where I find myself today, still doing basically the same stuff I was doing as a child and still being, hopefully, true to how I feel, I've been called to show up in this world. And so whether it's advocacy, on behalf of folks on the federal level from a legislative and policy standpoint, whereas advocacy for athletes or any folks around sports, and now trying to take it to a new level as a doctoral student, engaged in law and policy studies at Northeastern. Every journey has been, as you said, momentous and monumental, and hopefully has shaped me to who I am today.
I mean, it's amazing. So Woodlawn out. So how did you go to Princeton? I mean, what made you like one day? I know you and I have talked about it before, and
Yeah.
a lot of the black leaders have been theologians, but I mean, where did it come in and say, listen, here's the day I'm going to go in, I'm going to theology? How did that, like,
Yeah.
I mean, where does that come in? I mean, in terms of, yourself, how did you make that decision?
So my ministry, from what I just shared as a child, always steeped in church. So everything I did. So my ministry is and has been public policy and advocacy. So I was more in the Kingian, Jesse Jackson theology, public policy, moved by Harold Washington, the first black mayor of Chicago, to Jesse Jackson being down the street telling us that we were somebody, and also a protege of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but also a two-time presidential candidate. So I grew up in that kind of ethos, and my mentors were, so my calling was not to the four walls of the church. I recognized very early that my calling was outside the four walls. So going to Morehouse College as a religion major, and then going on to Princeton Seminary to divinity school was, typically when people go on to divinity and theological school, they automatically assume that they're going into pastoral ministry. I think I've absolutely been consistent with what and who I've been called to do, even emerging from those theological studies as an advocate around more public policy. And my ministry has been that.
And so you've taken these phenomenal principles and have really applied it to everyday life and trying to make a dent in the universe. That's what it sounds like, Lamell. That's amazing. I mean, you're
Right.
seriously amazing guy. Okay, got that. So I get that down. How did you start Perennial Sports? So how do you go from theology to real estate and then Perennial Sports? How does that happen?
Yeah. So let me tell the correct order. So again, everything steeply rooted in connectivity to church, to advocacy. So the gentleman that was the bridge, Derek Stafford, now retired finals NBA referee, who was the bridge to everything I'm doing in sports, frankly, but starting with representing the officials at the highest level of basketball in the NBA. I met Derek as a student at Morehouse College at the church that we went to. No, seriously. In addition to being a trustee at the church, in addition to being a deacon, in addition to singing in the choir, I was blown away that I could see this guy on Sundays. He was also, I could watch him on TV. He was officiating games, and he was also an alumnus of Morehouse College as well. And he just kind of adopted me as one of his little brothers from college. And so when I started this firm in DC, that was really about government relations consulting. When I went there in 2002, he called me and gave me this opportunity to do a project with the referees at the highest level of basketball, and as they were preparing for their collective bargaining. And that all started my pathway to sports. So I figured if I've got this unique position in sports where I represent the referees at the highest level of basketball, the umpires at the highest level of baseball, why can't I represent athletes? And so that's how Perennial Sports.
That's amazing. And how was it, Lamell, when you were in there negotiating with those umpires? Was it tough? Was it tough to go down through with the owners and negotiate? How was it? How did that work?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So what's interesting is Adam Silver, who's the current commissioner of the NBA. Well, we started when he was deputy commissioner, right? And that's our friendship and relationship started there. So now he's commissioner. Rob Manfred, who is the current commissioner in Major League Baseball, at the time he was the general counsel, right? And technically almost like a deputy commissioner, if you will, in baseball. And now he's the commissioner. So it was a wonderful journey, but I learned probably a lot. Not probably. I definitely learned a lot being across the table from the likes of David Stern, God rest his soul. And you are shaped and molded by the experiences and the journey. There's a preacher from Chicago, Jeremiah Wright, who used to say in the sermon, everybody sees the glory, they don't know the story. Mm-hmm. Everybody sees Gary Fowler and all of his success in AI and what he's doing with the Venture Studio. They see Gary today, but a lot of times people fail to see the story, and it's in part because we don't tell it. People just see the end result, and the young people especially think that they can skip over the story and get straight to the glory. But I submit that the two of us don't emerge in this place today at this time having this conversation but for a remarkable journey and some remarkable stories. And this is the result. Always growing, always striving to get better, but I'm definitely the better and shaped by experiences like working on behalf of officials and athletes and being an advocate in that regard.
So how did you make your decision to go for your PhD?
Theology. It's all in it's all in the spirit of trying to get better. But then COVID happened, right? And so we're mostly homebound, and rather than engaging in unhealthy activities, I decided, okay, in conjunction with a mentor, Dr. Larry Rice, former president of Johnson & Wales in Miami, he said, you know what? I think you'd be really good doing doctoral studies. I said, hey, you realize I'm a business owner. I got my mom I'm taking care of. I've got two business. Like, how in the world? And so we looked for a program that would really be a culmination of everything I've done in these 19 years, especially of owning and operating a government relations firm in DC, but geared towards professionals around law and policy. And we found this program in Northeastern, and it's been mostly virtual. We're going to show up in person next month, but I'm a year in a doctoral program. I'm getting ready to go towards dissertation and towards completion. Crazy. I don't really want to be called Dr. McMorris. I'm really better just for the journey. My colleagues and my cohort, everything's been fantastic. Great professors. I'm excited because look, here's the thing, Gary. And life is really about, if you're really in tune and with your faith journey, life is really about order steps. Not that it was great, but what better time to go through a doctoral program in law and studies than a global pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Racial and social unrest abounds, and a highly contested and combustible political environment we find ourselves in over this last year in this country, but even around the world. So what better time to be engaged in this study in a very rigorous and academic way than now? And so I'm hoping that I'll be able to not just offer some contributions to the program that I'm in, but to your point, helping to make this world and the things we care about just a bit more.
The thing is, what's going on, Lamell? I mean, it's like every day I talk to people and say the same thing, that there's, this tumultuous political environment that we have, all this strife around the world. I mean, a lot of challenges. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It seems a whole lot different than, when I grew up as a kid. It seemed to be a bit more simple. What is going on? What is happening? Without diving into all the politics deeply, but there's something. What's happening?
Well, I think, from what I can see and tell, a lot of people have not taken enough time and don't take enough time to really understand each other, to really truly communicate. We've not done an effective job of telling and sharing history, and I touched on that earlier when I talked about everyone seeing the glory and not knowing the story. Well, that really translates to so many other areas and issues that we're dealing with. Why one group of people from a racial and ethnic standpoint, whether they're in Palestine or Israel or South Side of Chicago versus the North Side of Chicago, why people don't really come to understand is because I don't think we have a true appreciation for each other's journey.
Mm-hmm.
I think through this racial awakening we're seeing, people are coming now to understand that neighborhoods like mine and others around the country, whether it's in LA or New York or Chicago or even in Birmingham or Atlanta, devastated and troubled communities just didn't get that way. When people now are learning about systemic and historic legal segregation, like redlining, that happened in housing, but it happened in education, it happened in health. Now people are coming to understand, my goodness, these neighborhoods and the wealth gap that we have, and housing disparities and housing ownership disparities, this didn't just happen because one group of people are here and they're to be looked down upon because of this. No, we have to go back and unpack and learn and understand the issues around what's happening overseas in certain communities, what's happening in Afghanistan. These things just did not happen.
It's disgusting, Lamell. That stuff in Afghanistan. I mean, I've seen some stuff in the last couple of days. It's crazy,
Yeah, but this stuff has a genesis, and I think in this era, especially in the work that you do, where you can just click and hit things so quick, I think people are missing an opportunity to take time to really wrestle with the weightier matters and really truly learn the history. And I think when we do lay history on the table and we do lay facts on the table, I think people that then gives room and gives way for a better understanding and hopefully a better path forward to work collectively towards a greater good for all.
So, how do we do that? Well, like from your standpoint, what are the steps to actually do it? I know that's, we're talking about diversity today, but what are the real steps? And we have viewers, from all over the world. What can we do? What practical steps can they do to be able to make their dent in the universe and to be able to help make this a a better world for all of us. There's a lot of problems, Lamell, that we got to face. Global warming, the gap between people that understand data and not, the inequalities around the planet. What steps can the audience take to be able to make a difference? What do you think?
I don't want to oversimplify it, but also don't want to overcomplicate it as well. The thing that I would share with your viewers watching, and that I would ask them to consider, is create safe environments for people from different backgrounds to get together and share and communicate, to deal with some very hard issues. And so, look, you've got greenlining up on the screen, and I really do believe that portrait and that poem that we see sometimes, where the pebble drops in the water and then it creates this, ripple effect. I do believe that small incremental steps do lead to broader change. And sometimes it's just your block. Sometimes it's just the two people or some people from different neighborhoods that get together and have, a very safe and honest and complicated conversation about various issues that are going on in the community, right? Or sometimes it's on a different extreme. You're like me, you decide that you go home and sit in your childhood porch and you look around and you see some of the same vacant lots and blighted properties. You crazy like me, you decide you're going to start a real estate development company going right at this historic practice of redlining and call it greenlining and try to build houses on vacant land and rehab homes. It doesn't, it happens in those extremes. Sometimes the change is incremental and small and it starts with conversation. Sometimes you're an entrepreneur like me, and I define an entrepreneur as someone who goes on top of a building, jumps off, and figures out what's going to happen on the way down and how they're going to land. I didn't know anything about real estate development, but I did know that one of the reasons, not the entirety, but one of the reasons why my neighborhood and communities like it are in the condition that they're in is because of this historic, legalized segregation issue called redlining. And if I can inject green where they drew red, then maybe I can help get my neighborhood back on the path, and I can help get, create a platform for other neighborhoods to do the same. I'm not the only one doing this, and I'm not the only one who can. But we're that pebble, and that little light shines that hopefully we can be an example.
No, I agree with you 100%. I know when I first went over to Russia, people said to me, "Oh, you're going over to Russia, the Russians," and I remember, Reagan talking about the Russians and the Soviet Union and everything. And I remember I went over and I was scared to death when I went, but I went over, I said, I'm going to keep my mind open. I want to get to know the people. And I got to tell you, it was amazing, the miracles that happened. We started the first accelerator over there, and
yes,
I could barely get anybody to come in. We had 2 or 3 people in the beginning, and our largest event that we had, I had over 2,500. I had the place packed solid. I had groups coming over to Silicon Valley, and part of it's getting to know each other. It's not easy, right? It was not easy.
No,
cultural differences, language differences, etc. But if you try to understand the good things, what did Mother Teresa say? It's not about stopping war, it's about pro-peace.
right.
When we work together, we got so many challenges we got to solve. If we don't work together, Lamell, in my opinion, over the next 100 years, nothing good's going to happen. Besides wars and all that, I mean, with the environment and global warming and not enough food for people and the population booming, we got to do something. We got to work together and hold hands and, and basically solve the problems and try to understand each other, not to, look. It's like somebody said to me, when you're going through a relationship, you look at the bad, not the good. What's the good that we can, what are the good points where we connect together and we can make a difference? Each one of the audience members that are out there, startups and investors around the world, think about it. Go to your community. I know when we first started going over to Africa, Lamell, people said we were nuts. Why in the world would you go to Nigeria and Ghana and Zambia and Kenya? Because we can make a difference. There's some incredible talent that can be curated, that can take companies around the world. There's talent everywhere. But we got to go out. Oh, I'm not sure I'd want to do it. Are you going to get killed? There would be those kind of discussions. And the situation is, if you look at it differently, and guess what? Being an entrepreneur, you're right. It's like jumping off a building, and sometimes you don't know how you're going to land. You better understand you can roll the right way or grab onto a parachute on the way down, but have confidence in your abilities. You're going to find a way to survive, right?
Yeah.
And
Life
when happens,
is about pivots and possibilities. I think what you and the GSD team are doing, not just globally, but the opportunity that you now have in this era where issues around diversity and equity and inclusion are a big deal. You have a unique opportunity, right? To foster a remarkable pivot as you work not just in Russia, but especially on the continent of Africa. I can't wait to see you make the connection between the tech innovators and incubation work that you're doing on the continent of Africa and those on the south side of Chicago.
we want to do it.
Lamell, we talked about it. You and I've talked about it. That is the unique when the incubator that's in West Woodlawn is talking to the incubator in Lagos, and the incubator in Lagos is talking to the incubator of brown and black people in Crenshaw and in Southwest Atlanta and in Liberty City in Miami. When that is the opportunity, and I think we're at. Listen, we've had in the history of this country and in this world, but in these United States of America especially, we've had a lot of pivot points. We've had many eras of history where we thought we weren't going to make it. And I know things look absolutely crazy right now, but I am going through pivots. You're going through pivots. I think I'm sensing corporate America in a remarkable way sees the opportunities to lean in a very meaningful way. We're not done yet. We've got a lot of work to do. I see nonprofits and foundations. I see business leaders and entrepreneurs. I see students continuing to. I believe I remain phenomenally hopeful that we, the two of us, are only a small part of the remarkable good that's going to emerge over this next century.
No, I agree with you, and it's about trying, right? It's about trying. You're an inspiration to all of us. It's amazing, actually. I was going through your one bio was like 7 pages. I was printing it out, and I'm like, well, this is serious. And I read it a few times, but I took the long version. I mean, it's incredible. So, okay, tell us about the cars you like to restore, because I got to hear about your cars. What are you doing with your BMW? And
again, let's see, 3 things happened during COVID, right? I became a doctoral student. I became a plant dad. I was like, okay, how can I work on some stuff and keep some other stuff living around me in addition to other work I'm doing? And then I got into collecting a few classic cars, and now I doubt I'll buy any. If it's not 25 years or older on the road to being 30 years plus, I probably won't drive it. And I think it's nostalgia. I think it takes me back to how I grew up. Even I wasn't even born. My favorite car, I guess, right now is a 61. I wasn't born in 1961, but it's cool. I've got a 1961 Lincoln Continental. I look like I'm driving a cruise ship.
Suicide doors? Is that the one with the
suicide doors, the whole nine. Or I've got a car that I loved as a kid from the first moment I saw it, a 1994 BMW 840 Ci that we just restored where the lights flip up. People look at me like I'm crazy driving down the street because no one has headlights to flip up anymore. So, hopefully there's some other good things in store. I've got my eye on a couple of, more muscle type cars, but it's a good outlet, a good hobby. Maybe I'll become better at that than I am at golf. And we'll see what happens.
That's amazing. By the way, I did talk to my uncle. I tried to pry that 71 Skylark from him. And when I started to talk to him about you're buying it, he started like, I really like it.
Yeah. Listen,
I tried. I really tried.
It's hard. People approach me when they see me driving some of these cars around. And, there's the entrepreneurial part of you, but then there's the, you know, the sentimental side on this side. It's like, you know, maybe I don't want to give it up yet. And then, you know, I'm going to enjoy collecting. Hopefully I won't have to give any up anytime soon.
No, that's great. Well, listen, we're coming to the top of the hour. Closing thoughts and what's the best way for people to follow you, Lamell?
Easy. Greenlining Realty USA. We're on Instagram. Phase 2 consulting. My consulting work. We have a web platform. I'm on Instagram. You can find me, Lamell McMorris. Really easy. I'm on LinkedIn again via Lamell McMorris. I try to pride myself. If you reach out, I'll reach back. Especially if you say you saw me here on Gary's show. And look, I think everyone just has to do their part. And I think people have to be remarkably open in ways to be challenged. And, you know, I tell people the blessing is in the stretch, when we stretch ourselves outside of our comfort zones. I've tried to do it in my life. I'm doing it now as a doctoral student in the middle of doing businesses, and we all do it in our own way. And I think that's where we need to get outside of that which makes us comfortable.
Yeah, thanks, Lamell. And to my audience out there, you know, let's make a dent in the universe. Let's make it different. Let's go out, reach out to somebody. Let's rock across the aisle. Let's try to figure out who they are, the kind of things that they're going through, and try to help. Kindness is really important. There's opportunities for all of us to make a dent in the universe, opportunities for all of us to make a difference. Let's do it now and let's not wait. My name's Gary Fowler. It's great to be here today, and I sincerely appreciate your time, Lamell.
Thank you for having me.
Stay tuned for another edition of GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. I'll be back again next Tuesday. Have a safe and wonderful rest of the week. Enjoy yourself, and again, stay safe. So thanks, Lamell. Appreciate it, and see you again soon.
Take care.